I do have skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
Transparency NZ investigate and monitor actual corruption and publish evidence of IT. It is clear that the media have a major role in controlling the perception of corruption. As the Leveson inquiry revealed, the media is certainly not infallible, and as the Kitteridge report revealed, the relationship between the media and politicians is incestuous and nepotistic.
So this is the problem happened on the 6th of February in the whare at Waitangi.
Yes.
When Jack Wild and Tui Taura of the organisation known as Ngā Haere Whā, which the Minstry's been engaging with for quite some few years.
Yes.
They came to the marae and came into the whare and they gave a presentation regarding Ngā Haere Whā, and they proposed that they would be the spokespeople and the voice for, I think their logo is the champion many voices. They said we want to speak for anybody who has an issue with mental health services, particularly anybody who feels they weren't treated very well by the mental health system or anything like that. And Tui shared her personal story.
Yes.
And then she asked others if they would like to share their story, and I was one of those people.
Cool.
And I was also one of the signatories to a attendance register which was handed around. And whenever we signed anything, we asked for a copy of the document as a matter of course, normally. And in this case in particular, because there were a few alarm bells that rang for us shortly after the hui started.
Yes.
There was a pānui sent out. Ngā Haere Whā, this was all on their website. They've closed down their website in response to our complaints and inquiries for information.
Right.
So we emailed Tui asking for a copy of the document, and she said, yes, certainly, I'll give it to you next week. And then the emails changed, and she said, I'm unable to list everyone for you right now. I need to set up a database first, and I can send it after I've received permission. She doesn't say who from. I've promised others no one has access until permission is granted, unspecific others. Watch for my email. Several times she said the purpose of the collection of the information. So under the Privacy Act, we're entitled to the document we signed. We've never received it. They're continuing to treat us with arrogance and contempt, and we've really reached the end of our patience. So the first thing we'd like is a copy of the document we signed. And this is very important, not only because of our rights under the Privacy Act, but because the document we signed has been fraudulently misused in letters to the Prime Minister, and there's also evidence of a fraudulent funding application made by Victoria Roberts regarding the Changing Minds initiative known as Rākau Rōroa. And I think Changing Minds administrates the Rākau Rōroa initiative, which it identifies potential leaders and then equips them with the tools necessary to engage with their stakeholders and lead the mental health kaupapa. I've been involved with mental health kaupapa in particular for the last 20 years in the Wairarapa. We've run a very successful suicide prevention program. We don't feed the kids, we teach the kids to grow their own food. It's actually really easy and very satisfying. Even if kids can't read or write, we help them with their literacy, but we also help them to grow their own fruit and vegetables and things, and improves their self-esteem, gets rid of their boredom. It's a marvellous initiative. Anyway, Tui's initiative didn't go down very well at Waitangi. There was not a lot of support for it, and she certainly received no mandates to do anything other than come back when she had a plan, because the information released by the Ministry of Health, now this is crucial to what we're talking about today. I brought my computer because I can turn on the internet and show you where it is on the FYI website. Have you seen it?
What is this?
The information released by the Ministry of Health regarding Ngā Haere Whā.
I have read as much in the last year, so that's
Yes, that was part of our organisation, our directorate that actually released the information.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And because there's emails, I think, from you on there, I'm not sure, but anyway, this information, when it came out, it was an absolute bombshell when we looked at it. So it would be great to have that information printed out on paper if possible. At the moment, we can only access it on the internet, but we've downloaded the attachments. We can look at them that way, but it is cumbersome looking at them on the internet. It would be easy if they were in paper. We've tried to print them out, but we just haven't got the resources. But anyway, so this is the first issue, is we would like the document we signed. Then we would like, we need the Ministry to undertake an inquiry into Ngā Haere Whā and the individuals involved. We'd like to ask that take place, and that we be involved in the inquiry, actively involved in the inquiry, because you see, we'd like to sit down face to face with at least 3 of the parties involved. That's Victoria Roberts, Jack Wild and Tui Taura, because we'd like some answers to some specific
And
questions.
who, sorry?
Tui Taura,
Oh, yes.
Jack Wild, and this is where it's a Māori issue, but it's also to do with the bigger mental health kaupapa, because we've been...
And Victoria
Roberts, and this is our one of our primary issues here, is that Victoria is currently employed with the Minstry, with the Health and Disability Commission as their mental health advisor, which is a very serious problem. She needs to be removed from that role because of the evidence of the fraudulent funding application. That's the email and the letter to her, signed by Kiri Hannafin, I think, of Changing Minds, that says, "Dear Victoria, we don't want anything to do with you anymore, or your organisation. We are cutting all ties and disassociating ourselves with you because of the fraudulent funding application." Now, we want more information about the fraudulent funding application. We want Changing Minds to tell us a lot more about that fraudulent funding application and what way it was fraudulent, because we've received information from other people involved with Ngā Haue Whā, including information that indicates that the fraud involved paying the funding into a personal bank account of one of the parties involved. We don't know whether that was Jack or Victoria, but we've got a fair idea it was one of those two. But we want all the details of the fraudulent funding application, how it was found to have been fraudulent. We don't believe that's the only fraudulent funding application they've made. There needs to be a full inquiry into how the Ministry funded an organisation that wasn't a legal entity since around 2014, we think that they've been funded, and they're not an incorporated society or any other form of legal entity. The whole thing is a con run by Victoria and Jack with the assistance of a few other people. Bill Te Huia Hamilton's another one who has seriously let us down. This should have been dealt with 2 years ago when we first raised it. Now, what did happen 2 years ago is that these communications started and they just went nowhere, basically. We've just been fobbed off. So we're at the moment contemplating, we're actually actively underway with applications to the High Court for under 8.2 of the High Court rules for preliminary discovery of the document we signed and the information regarding the fraudulent funding application, because Changing Minds, it's questionable whether or not they're open subject to the OIA and things like that, and we're finding that it's just all taking too long. But the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction, and they will certainly sort this out. But we're also looking at other avenues to resolve it, which is why we're here today, because Dunn's here, all right, in this room, because I'm his spokesperson. He's signed authority which has been recognised by the High Court, the District Court and the Human Rights Review Tribunal, and he knows exactly what I'm saying to you because we've discussed it before. So we want to have, we'd like to humbly request that you facilitate a meeting with these the other parties, being Jack, Tui and Victoria in particular, because there was a meeting facilitated by the Ministry when those 3 all turned on each other. In response to our complaints, they all started making complaints about each other, and it turned into a very ugly situation. And the information that's been already released, it's ugly. And what's gone on at Waitangi has been ugly for a long time. There's dysfunction and a lack of good governance going on in our marae, which is partly your business because it's to do with our health. Because our organisation, Tātai Whetū, our kaupapa is a holistic one. I was surprised recently to get an email from Sunny Toe, because Sunny Toe knows I'm not interested in anything he's got to say, but when I read it, I did find it rather amusing. It was actually addressed to another woman I know, and Dunn knows, and it accused her of putting a makutu on him. And when I scrolled up, I read the words that had been sent to Sunny by this woman, and I knew at the time that Dunn had told her to do it, and it said, "Hei aitua, hei aitua, hei aitua, and nao e takahi te kikararu purukaita ko tātou." And that means it was you who stepped on the stink beetle, but the smell is affecting all of us, and that's what's happened in this situation. Tui has got involved with this organisation. It's all turned to custard, and now Waitangi is looking, we've been, where things aren't good, it's reflecting badly on all of us and our ability to govern things. So one of the other ways we're looking at dealing with this is through a pā-kōti system, and we're talking with Judge Joe Williams about that from the Supreme Court, because we've had previous discussions about this, and they've established pā-kōti in respect of youth courts and other things. So because the number one thing, see, we want to resolve this under tikanga, and that's why it was great that so far that process has been in line with tikanga. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing about tikanga, of course, is aroha and whanangatanga, and second to that, whakapono. But Tui is our whananga, and even though we feel very hoha and riri regarding what Tui has done, she's still our kazi, and we have to protect her, because the initiatives of Like Minds and Changing Minds in particular, we've studied the problems with suicide, child abuse, and the way the government's dealt with these matters of policy and things like that. Part of our initiative is the Beneficiaries and Unemployed Workers Union, and we've established this. We have a peer support network. It's firmly established. We have a manager running the union, because he did a better job than me, so I appointed a manager and support him. If Tui did a good job, I'd be supporting her. Mm-hmm. If there was anybody else doing a good job, we'd be supporting them. And we do. We support other organisations that are operating well and using their funding appropriately and things like that, but not Raue Wha, and there needs to be a serious inquiry. It seems that Kevin Harper is the person at the Minstry who's been enabling this and encouraging their funding to continue. Currently, they're being funded under the umbrella, because they've always been funded under an umbrella, because they're not a legal entity. They're not eligible for funding, but they've been getting it anyway, and they've been getting it on the pretext that they're a peer support network. But I'm here to represent the kuia and kaumātua from Te Tī, and there's a number of us who have been exploited. And so to try and keep this within the time frame, because I'm not sure what the time is, I'm aware that
it's going,
ticking.
it's 10 to.
Right.
Yeah,
so there was this letter to the Prime Minister. First of all, we asked Tui for the copy of the document we signed. She said, yes, I'll give it to you, and then she started mucking us around, and then suddenly she sent me an email saying, oh dear, my head's all over the place. You want a copy of the letter? And she copied Jack Wilden and said, Jack, can you send Catherine a copy of the letter? I don't know anything about any letter. That's when we got the first letter to the Prime Minister, signed by Jack in Victoria. And it's shocking. It's released, I'm pretty sure, on the... Anyway, it's on one of our websites. If it's not on the FYI site, it's on the psychiatrickery one, where we've uploaded the other evidence about this matter. Because it's going to take more than just one meeting of an hour to sort this out. And that's why I'm really hoping that we can make another appointment for another meeting in another week's time, or 2 weeks, whatever. And I'll make sure Dunn comes to it too, because he feels really strongly about this. A lot of us do. So the thing is that the first letter from Victoria and Jack was bad enough. And then Jack claimed in an email to the Ministry, to Amanda Luckman, I could bring this up on the quick as a flash and show you what I'm talking about, but I couldn't do it in an hour. But if we said, this is a matter we should be setting aside a day for, really, and sitting in a room with a whiteboard, having a look at all this stuff, because it's a huge amount of information that the Ministry's released. And there's just so much evidence of so many wrong things.
So let's just jump in there. Mm-hmm. So what's the solution you're after, Catherine?
A proper inquiry. We want to stop the funding to this organisation. We want Victoria Roberts removed from her role as the mental health advisor at the Health and Disability Commission, and we want to look at the manner in which our complaint has been dealt with for the last 2 years to make sure that never happens again to anybody.
Well, let's slow it down a little bit. Let's slow it down. Let's do this one at a time. Yeah. So the first thing that you want is what, sorry? Here, here's mine.
One was, which I've noted, and please correct if I've got it wrong, is that you want a hui facilitated with individuals of ngā Haue Wha.
Yes, please.
In particular, Jack, Vic, and Victoria.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first one. The second thing is you want funding halted to ngā Haue Wha.
Yes, please.
Third is
an inquiry. Well,
yes, that was actually the first one, but it's okay.
The removal of office of the chair, the co-chair.
Yes, see, we need to have the inquiry, I think, first in order to get the rest of the things done. But we don't need it in order to have the hui done. That's another one that can be done straight away, funding halted. That might need to wait till after the inquiry, I'm not sure. But I think there's enough evidence already to halt the funding myself.
And so what's a fraudulent funding application...
Yeah.
is only a significant issue from our perspective under two auspices. One is the funding application comes to us. Two is the funding application is successful. Three is both the information that was included in the application and the activities for which, if they were successful, that we funded for, were not carried out. So that would be the conditions under which we would have a look at it. Now, from what you're saying, the application actually went to, what was it, Choice Minds? Changing Minds?
And it involved the Raka Aurora initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, and that information was never released by the Minstry, so if you have it, we'd very much like to.
Well, I'm just checking whether or not Changing Minds is
so,
part of...
So if it's okay with you, if I just pull this back a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, I'm Waiatamai Tamehana, Principal Advisor, Lived Experience Lead. So I've been in this space in Aotearoa for 20 years.
Yeah.
And have worked across the breadth and depth of our country with whānau from the ground all the way through system services. And so in the mahi that I've done over time, I have seen peer and whānau groups do really, really well, and I've seen peer and whānau groups not do so well. Whenever I've stepped back and had a look at why is this one doing well and this one not so well, it's usually around the infrastructure of how people set themselves up and bring themselves together. Yeah. It's also usually around expectations of each other and the world outside us when it comes to being a peer service. I know me when I came in many years ago, and that wasn't just in mental health, it was in social services, that I felt that I could change the world just based on my passion alone and vision for what I saw needed to change. I am going to change the world, and if I talk to somebody, I'll convince them. So what I'm trying to say is I've seen well and I've seen not well, and over 20 years plus I've seen kind of trends that indicate what's worked well and what hasn't. I just came in secondment in February last year from the DHB, so I was the Director of Consumer Involvement across 3 DHBs, working with a great team. Got seconded in, and after 6 months I was offered the permanent role here, so I came in on June. So the first time this complaint came across my table was in September.
And I appreciate that.
Yes, and I responded straight away.
You did, and very positively, and we're very grateful for that.
So,
indeed.
Yeah. So, as I said then, I will do a scope. I will have a look at it. I'm neutral. I don't know individuals of the ropu. Yeah. So I can look at and I don't know you, so I can look at this, reasonably stand backish, and see what there is. So.
Because I think I just need to stop here and sort of go again to one of the really main important points, and that is that Tui is delusional, for one thing, and for a second thing, she is a danger to vulnerable people. She wrote a letter to the Prime Minister claiming that the signatories to that document, which include us, endorsed her letter to the Prime Minister. We didn't even know about her letter to the Prime Minister, and if we had known about it, we certainly would not have.
So that's the reason why we need to be clear about what do you want to get out of this, because actually, hold on, because actually what you've written down on there doesn't mention Tui yet. If this is an issue about Tui, then we need to know what that's why I'm trying to...
What I'm wanting to say right now...
Because what I've just said is very serious. What I've said needs action taken. Somebody needs to assess her.
Understand. Yeah. And I don't carry the mamai that you're carrying within and towards the organisation, and them within and towards yourself and the whānau. So we're fresh in here. So Tui is no longer and has not been part of Ngā Haui Whā for a while.
Tui is putting herself out there as a mental health leader.
But that is not our business. That's not my business. That's her business, and it's your business.
The funding that she's received from the Ministry.
Jack is not there anymore. So the Victoria's. So what I'm trying to say,
And Jack
what
might not
I'm
be there, but where is he? Because he needs to be held accountable to us. He came into our marae, he took our signatures, he lied to us, he fraudulently misused our signatures.
But that would be something that occurs between yourselves,
Yes.
and this is
the
not a
ministry needs to
contractual.
facilitate it. They've said
Well,
they're a peer support network. We're a peer
I
support
don't-
network,
Well-
and we would like to apply for the ministry funding and the role that was formerly
So-
filled by Ngā Haue.
This is how my take on things when it comes to contracts, and for me anyway, we have to remove the personal from the business, because that's when things, like any whānau, that's when things
There's
blow
nothing
up.
personal here, apart from the fact that the aroha, therefore our whananga, is there. But apart from that, there is no personal issue here. But the issue is that Tui is delusional, because the ministry sent her a letter warning her of a $10,000 fine for claiming to be a clinician. Now, regardless of whether or not she's still involved with Ngā Haue Whā, she's still running huis and putting herself out there as a leader. She's still got her profile on the 100 Maori Leaders website. She is a danger to other people and completely delusional. She wants to change the world. We all want to change we all start off with those good intentions that you spoke of before. And I appreciate that you and Tui and I have all got that in common. We all want to stop the suicides and the mental health that everybody's going through. But Tui is not equipped to do that any more than Gary McPhee was, who was another person, no different to Tui, who was elevated to a position of leadership by organisations and initiatives like Changing Minds, and it ended in disaster. But there's no personal issue. But she is delusional. Right? She not only claimed to be a clinician, she's still claiming to be a leader, despite the evidence that she did not have any mandate. The letter to the Prime Minister claimed a mandate, this is very serious, for Ngāpui, Tūhoi, Tainui and Ngāti Porou. She didn't have a mandate for anything.
So what I want to do right now, if this is okay, and because I'm mindful of time.
Because Tui has also produced another copy of that letter with the other 3 iwi's names removed off it and just Ngāpui. Now we want to make sure that she never receives any funding through the ministry or through any umbrella funded by the ministry ever again.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'm going to do two things. We're going to have right here, this is our contract with the Rōpū, who are the umbrella for Ngā Haue Whā. So can I please finish? Yeah. And here is Ngā Haue Whā. We have the relationship with this here. They have the relationship over here. And here's your here's the
trust
thing.
Are the umbrella, and they are all either married to each other or brother and sister. Oh. The nepotistic relationships in Te Kupinga Trust need addressing, and funding them needs to stop.
So
not a peer support network.
What I want to say, and which Matua, would agree with me, is what I am interested in as a peer and as a peer leader is, 1, you say you're going to do what you say you're going to do. 2, you deliver according to what we have agreed to. 3, if you do not, I would like to know why, and we'll have a good, fair relationship about the why, because that's good relationships. If the explanation doesn't feel right, doesn't add up right, I will give advice, because a good faith relationship is about allowing ourselves to make a mistake.
We've been through this. We've tried to engage with Turi for the last 2 years.
But I'm just saying from a Crown perspective. And we will wrap around and support that organisation to get themselves okay.
But this is what's happened for too long.
If
the
over time
needs to be shut down.
If over time we do not see corrective action or change, then we will have a different kind of conversation. So from this point on, I want to let you know. Is it okay if I say it, or you want to? Okay. I want to let you know, and Matua Mihaka, is we have taken on board your kōrero. I have read the historical files. I made a commitment to do that. We are reviewing the contract in its current state, as it is. I have had a direct, let's talk about the white elephant conversation with Ngā Haue Whā when I first met them this year, because I felt it fair to be honest and open. about their past, so that we were coming from the same place. I know, you know, now we both know. Let's talk about it. So we are reviewing. We are considering all of what you have said, all of what we have discovered in our own inquiry, and weighing up your kōrero, our discovery. Is this organisation, like with many organisations we're looking at that we contract with at the moment, are they fit for purpose now going into the future? Maybe in the past some organisations may have been, but we're moving into this other space to provide quality service. We're here to transform services. So is this rōpū contract fit for purpose today going into the future? So we're reviewing that across all of our services. Does this contract add value for money? So there's a couple of things that we review. Are they doing what they say they're doing? Are they reporting on time? Are their finances tika? What else do we need to consider? So what I'm trying to say to you is, yes, we have taken on board what you're saying. Yes, we are reviewing the contract.
Yeah, I think the other things to impress upon is, in terms of the stuff that happens between Tui and the marae, that's not something that the Ministry of Health would engage itself in.
Well, the document was owned by Ngā Haere Whā. The document we signed is owned by Ngā Haere Whā. We've established that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but in terms of because what you've talked about is you've talked about wanting to have a kōrero with Tui to rectify the
not just Tui, but all three of them.
Well, whoever it might be, but
with
the marae.
Marae.
So that from our perspective, we're looking to deal with the exact point around the contractual situation, and particularly where there are points around performance that you've brought up, to actually see, okay, you know, where has performance been on this? Have they delivered in that? So we'll continue to do that. In terms of the process that you're talking about on the marae, that's something that the Ministry of Health would not be engaged in.
Of course not. Well, I think the Ministry has a duty to be involved, actually. Although I just said, of course not. I think the Ministry has a duty to be involved in it, all right, because the Ministry has funded it and enabled it for a number of years in the face of the evidence, and despite the fact that they've never been a legal entity. Now, that's the other thing. We've applied for funding.
Well, just so we're clear though, I've said that the Ministry won't be engaged in that particular part of the process. All right? We are, and we're continuing to, and look, this is the point that we want to be clear about. We're taking seriously the issues that you've raised in terms of contracting and performance, and that's why we're reviewing that part of it.
So if we were to invite the Ministry to TePaa and Waiatamai, you would refuse the invitation. Is that what you just said? Because the discussions we've had with Judge Joe are that the Ministry is up to their necks, and they have a duty to engage with us at Waitangi because of what's happened and the length of the Ministry and the funding that's gone on.
We would consider the invitation, but that actually, you know, as it stands at the moment, that conversation between Tui and the other members,
still being funded by the Ministry through other initiatives.
Well, I'm not aware of any of that. What we're aware of is this particular issue that's been brought to our attention, and we're
half a dozen other initiatives that are
so I'm clear.
that she's involved
We're
with.
dealing with this here. That's the issue that you've brought to us, and so we're dealing with that.
Individuals. This is the issue is about these
not from our perspective.
all the organisations that you're funding, not just one organisation
Not from our perspective. We've been asked to provide a review of this organisation
and
in
other
light.
organisations that these individuals are involved with.
No, we haven't received that, nor would we go
I'm giving
into
it
that.
to you now.
Well, what I'm saying is
there's no point shutting down Ngā Haere Whā if they're all going to get their funding through other initiatives.
So we're clear about this. We have a contractual relationship with an organisation that Ngā Haere Whā sits under. The complaint that we've received has been in relation to that particular contract,
Our
and
complaint involves their association
we're
with
clear
other organisations as well as
that's not what we've received.
Well, I'm giving it to you now,
Well,
that complaint.
That's a different
and
situation.
we're not funding any other peer groups.
Yep.
No,
We're not funding any other direct
Other
peer groups like
organisations
this.
are being funded directly or indirectly by the ministry, which these people are actively involved with.
well, it's difficult for us to fund indirectly.
Yeah.
No, it's
It's
not,
difficult
because
for
you
us
funded
to-
this group indirectly under the umbrella.
It's difficult, well, if you let me finish, it's difficult for us to fund indirectly without establishing, firstly, a direct relationship. So if there are other
It's already been
organisations...
established. Your direct relationship with Victoria is very close.
Oh, we've identified that. That's why we're reviewing this particular set of contracts with this provider or providers.
And we
So if you have other ones, then actually, rather than talking about it, like what's happened to us previously, that you actually submit something to us in writing about it.
It's already in writing. We don't traditionally deal with things in writing. No, we would first like the document we signed before you start talking to us about putting
Well, we
things in
don't have that
writing.
document because actually
Well,
that
it needs
document
to be-
wasn't presented to
No,
us. It's not a
Raue
part
needs
of
to
our
be
organisations.
compelled to provide it because it was attached to that letter to
Well,
the
you've
Prime Minister.
OIA'd them.
Yes,
Who?
and that has.
Who?
You've OIA'd.
Yeah, you did.
Who?
When you requested the information here last or a couple of weeks ago, where I was away, I sent it straight through to OIA. So that they can give you all that information. So it's
information
out
that
of
we
it's
have.
no, and I
We
sent you
want
an
the
email to let you
documents
know.
that we signed, and we're entitled to it.
Sure,
If
but we
it's-
don't.
yeah,
we don't
we don't
have
hold.
that.
Yeah, we don't hold that
You need to take
information.
responsibility for this group who've been acting under your umbrella.
Well, we're taking responsibility
Well,
for
the
have
first
they
thing is
been
you need
performing.
to-
No,
yeah.
we have a contractual relationship with them, and we are following through on the review of the contract and their performance against that, which is what we are bound to do.
I think the scope needs to be a bit wider because of the fact that they are continuing to involve themselves with other organisations, in particular Victoria's role with the Health and Disability Commission.
So Victoria's role with
Now,
them
that also
is
comes under the ministry.
the Health and Disability Commission sits separate to the Ministry of Health. And what I'd suggest you do is that you actually send something to the Health and Disability Commission.
Well, that's really insulting. Do you think we didn't do that 2 years ago?
No, we don't know. I don't know.
Of course we
I
did.
don't have
Well, we don't
access
know.
to
We've
their
been talking about this for 2
information.
years, and that's
Yeah.
why we want to.
We
the
don't
Ministry of
know.
Health needs to look into this.
Well, we don't know. We haven't, like I said, we haven't received.
Well, it's time
There's a
that we
lot of
acknowledge
information.
this issue, that the
Well,
fact that Victoria
that's
still
why we're
works at the Health
asking.
and Disability Commission, and that's why we need to address.
That's why we're
the
asking
funding
for the
of these
information.
individuals through other organisations such as the Health and Disability
I'm
Commission.
mindful
another
of
peer-
time.
peer
Oh no,
network.
we've still got a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Look, I am. You know, when in the peer space, or the consumer advisory space, or whānau space, tangata whaiora space, when we have issues with each other, we front with each other like any whānau. We call a hui.
Tui needs to front about what she did.
What we do is we call a hui with the people I had the issue with and say
done
haere
that.
mai no
We
no
did
mai.
that.
And if they don't come, like if yourself or whoever didn't come today, that is their mana to not come either.
Don't
And
couldn't
somewhere
come because
that's okay. That was okay. Yes, you
Tui,
told me.
on the
Yeah.
other hand, simply refuses to come
Okay.
and engage with us, and
So,
she needs to be compelled to.
And, you know, in my days when having to deal with in-house stuff to protect the mana of our whānau, we deal with it in-house. And if it can't be resolved through tikanga,
We tried to do that before we came
Okay.
to the ministry.
if we can't resolve through acknowledging the mana of who we are and through our tikanga process within our wharenui, we have to let it go and ask the tupuna and the atua to look after them.
We go to the High
That's-
Court and call for a judicial
then you-
review
that-
into the
then
response
I,
from the Ministry of
then
Health
please do
regarding
that.
our complaints that this
Please
group
do
here
that.
is being funded, the individuals are being funded through other organisations, not just Ngā Haue Whā. And the
So-
fact that Victoria Roberts is the mental health advisor for the Health and Disability Commission, that needs to stop immediately right now. there needs to be a full inquiry at governmental level into her role as mental health advisor when she is specifically targeted in the letter and the email from Changing Minds regarding the fraudulent funding application.
So if you want to take it to that level, then that's outside of our
The
jurisdiction.
ministry needs to extend this jurisdiction because you're being very narrow-minded.
No, we're being very clear.
No.
We are being very clear.
You're being strict. You've been clear, all right.
Yes, exactly.
That you're not going to do anything about
We are.
the
We are.
largest amount of our complaint. You've made it very clear that you're going to deconstruct our complaint and deal with only what you want to deal with, and that's a very small part of it.
Well, here's
We're
what
dealing
we've
with
been
what
asked to
I
do.
can.
Yeah,
We're dealing with
can
what
only
we
deal
can
with-
within
Victoria
our.
Roberts be removed immediately pending inquiry into the fraudulent funding application. We're asking to be directly involved in these inquiries, and we're asking for ongoing dialogue with the ministry, and we're asking to receive the funding. You can shake your head at me all you like.
No, I'm not
But
talking
we're
about
asking
you.
to receive the funding that you've been formally given under the umbrella of goodness knows what, MHAPS, and all of these groups. They've all said, no, we want nothing to do with these people anymore. They're dodgy as all hell. We want that funding. It's time we had it. We have established our credibility. We've got the proof that our programs work and that we have the support of our peers, because there's been a huge hole in the peer support field.
So if we're going to talk about funding of your services, then that's not.
There's been nobody doing this for the last 2 years. No, Hawaii have not been supporting their
but
peers.
there is a
We've been
different
exposing
process.
them.
There's a different.
There is a different process, and actually, there is an
We need
ability.
to be more holistic about this. We've
Well,
put in our applications,
well,
but when it's compartmentalised, like you seem to like to deal with things.
Well, if there is, there is a
We
process.
are turned down every time on the
Well, there
grounds
is a
that we're not a
process,
legal entity.
and there is actually an
We want to know
RFP.
how come you've been funding Hawaii when they're not even a legal entity.
Well, just so I can finish and be clear about what I'm talking
But
about.
every time one of you speaks, we get away from our complaint.
Well,
and
no,
into the realms
no.
of,
I'm
theory.
addressing what you talked about, which was that you would like your service funded. There is currently an RFP a request for proposal that is out there, which is looking at how we might fund new services, and those new services. This funding is targeted at Māori services, and so there is definitely an opportunity. Regardless of what's happening with the funding here that's being reviewed, there is an opportunity for your organisation to apply. The second part that I think is really important about this is that actually, yes, there are organisations like yours that don't stand as legal entities currently, but would like to provide a service. And
But
like what we've done,
they've been providing one. They've been funded for years.
I'm not talking about them.
For years when you
Hold
turned
on.
us down.
If I can finish. So what we've looked at too is ways that organisations that may not be set up as legal entities
You've been doing it.
may be able to.
You don't tell me you're looking at it. You've been doing it for years.
Well,
You've been
if you
funding
can let
them
me
for
finish,
years. They were not
if you
a
can let me
legal entity.
finish, we're looking at this as a way for other organisations to be able to umbrella under a parent organisation. So they have.
No other organisations.
So they
That's
have.
what we want to know, because we
Look,
applied and we were turned down. So how come you funded them when you
Well,
turned us down?
what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about that organisation there. I'm suggesting that actually.
I just asked you a question. This is what's
well, no,
happening.
you didn't.
Yes, I did.
But what
asked
if
how
I
you
can
have funded
finish?
them for years
Well, can
when
I
you turned
finish
us down?
my
The reason
conversation?
given to us was because we went out of
If I can't
funding
finish
because
my
we weren't a legal
conversation,
entity.
then actually it makes it difficult for you to be able to think
Well,
about
just
how you
straight
might
answer
respond.
to a straight question, and we can't get a copy
Well,
of
I'm
the
not
document we
finishing
signed,
my
and
answer.
We're very angry that we can't get a copy
I'm
of the
not
document
finishing
we
my
signed.
answer. So my answer is actually there's an opportunity for you to apply for
Yeah,
funding
we've been told
right
there's an
now.
opportunity before. Thanks. Sorry for not getting excited, but we've been told lots of times there's an opportunity. We've been told that exact same thing lots of times. I've taken the time. I've spent days of my life filling in the forms. And it all went nowhere because we were told, no, you're not a legal entity, you're not eligible for funding. For years we've been told that, and we've been doing the work regardless at our own expense. We're really angry about this, and we're not happy about the outcome of this meeting, because we need to be more holistic in our approach to dealing with this problem. This is a much bigger problem than I think
And I agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually bigger than both of us
Because we
right
can't
here.
have a health and disability
it's
commission
bigger
when the very
than
people
this.
that work there are the ones that are ripping us off into the scale of writing letters to the
I,
Prime Minister and containing a pack of utter lies.
When I think it's bigger, I think that this is a peer
This
thing.
is the Prime Minister. How much bigger does it get?
It's
Yeah.
back to the people and let the people talk to the people. I would
people.
take, I would say go back to, this is me.
We've done it.
I would go back
We've
to
done
my
it. Listen,
peers.
what you don't seem to understand is our maraes are all corrupt as anything. There's a small group of people running our maraes. We get told, the ahika will deal with things, the hokainga, you don't get any say. It's only the people who live on the land. You want to hire the marae for a hui? $600. That's what they said to me and done. $600 you can hire the marae to have a hui about this. Now, Tui just laughs. She's got the $600, all right. How much did they get frozen funds funding? They've got a heap of funding. They can hire any marae they like, and they are. And Tui's running around hiring maraes as we speak. Hui's about the mental health kaupapa, telling everybody she's the leader. Everybody should get behind her. This is ridiculous.
I don't particularly feel comfortable talking about the mana of other people's marae. I don't know them, and that's my tupuna don't do that. So I'm sorry, I won't
about
have
our
that
marae.
conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about marae, which is all of our marae, because it's...
But that's not a
It's not
conversation
our-
for us to
mine,
be
yeah.
engaged in.
It is, because it's...
No, it's not, because it's not our marae.
No.
So, look, I think we've got a couple of things out of here.
Yeah.
I think the review is going to continue, and rest assured, the information that you've provided us is a part of what we're using to do the review.
Right, well, the litigation will continue too, and we'll be asking for a full judicial inquiry into why the ministry's been funding this organisation and how they've been funding them. And
that's TePaa too.
Yes.
If we'd had confidence that we were going to receive answers to our questions and the information we're seeking at this meeting, we wouldn't do that, but I don't have that confidence.
That's
I'll
fine.
play this recording back to Dunn, but I'm fairly sure that he'll agree. Because it was a simple, fairly simple things what we were requesting. The document we signed, we're entitled to it under the Privacy Act. It's a shame that the ministry will not facilitate holding Tui to account and saying you took this document under the kaupapa that we funded you, because you funded her to come and do that hui, you paid for that hui. She took our signatures at the hui, and
we're agreeing that you're doing the right thing. You're actually going back to her and saying that she needs to
sit her down here and
she
say,
needs to
listen, these people want the document they signed. You fraudulently misused that document, hand it over, because it's continuing. They're continuing to fraudulently misuse that document. It's not just the Ministry of Health that's funding them.
Yeah, well, we're not aware of that.
Well, it's called perverting the course of justice and being a party to fraud.
Well, we're just saying we're not aware of that.
We've made use you are, because we've just made you aware of it.
No, we're not aware of her applications. We're not aware of her applications. No, we're not. I can tell you point blank that I have not dealt with a application from her.
Well, whether you did or not is irrelevant, because the ministry has approved funding, which she has received for a long time, a lot of it, and she's still in receipt of it, and she's still spending it.
So what we've got is evidence of services that have been contracted through providers.
What you've got is evidence, and I'm talking about the mental health here. I'm making an allegation under the Mental Health Act that Tui Taurua is delusional and a danger to other people. So don't talk over the top of me, because that's an extremely serious allegation. She is delusional. The evidence of that is your letter to her, the $10,000 fine, right? Now, she's continuing to put herself out there as a leader. She is a danger to other people. Now, we want her formally assessed by a mental health professional, and that's the end of this hui. We want her formally assessed because she's a danger to other people, and the evidence of that is that she took our signatures, fraudulently misused them in letters to the Prime Minister. So did Jack Wild, fraudulently misrepresent us. We want them both assessed under the Mental Health Act because they are clearly delusional. The evidence is indisputable. Do you not agree that the evidence is indisputable? Clearly you do, because you sent them, the ministry sent them a letter warning Tui of a $10,000 fine for claiming to be a clinician. So they changed the profile on the website, then they shut down the whole website. It's not enough, sorry, because she's still putting herself out there as a leader in the mental health field. And so is Jack, and so is Victoria. It's been going on for 2 years. The ministry has not dealt with it, and I don't feel that it's actually being dealt with now either. So I'll turn the recording off. It's 2 minutes over our time, and I'm leaving feeling really upset and extremely disappointed, because it's just simply we don't feel we've really achieved anything. But I'll wait, because you've got our email addresses, and we've asked for this full inquiry and that we be fully involved in it, and that involves sitting down face to face with these people, with Tui, Victoria and Jack, And unless that happens, unless we get confirmation that that is going to happen, we will be going to the High Court and holding the Ministry to account.
Yeah.
We know we can do that. We've just sat here and listened to people state the obvious the whole time. Every time you open your mouth, it's actually really insulting. I know we can do that. Dunn knows we can do that. We've been holding off doing that. We've been saying karakias too and trying to support our peers at our own expense while Tui is running around spending the money you gave her and has been for the last 2 years, and she's just upping the scale of things. Now, I've made this allegation that she is delusional. We want her assessed under the Mental Health Act. She is delusional and she is a danger to other people, and the evidence of that is completely and utterly indisputable.